Public Broadcast Manager Kevin G. Schmidt recently sat down for a candid interview with former Calvert County Commissioner President Tim Hutchins, following his honorable resignation from the Board of County Commissioners in June. Here is their conversation about his personal, professional, and spiritual life as a soldier, the son of a school teacher and a farmer, a lifelong Calvert County resident and devoted public servant.
Tim, all great stories are structured around 3 acts. If you would walk us through the movie trailer of your life thus far and highlight some key themes, some challenges, some victories, and some milestones.
Sure. Well, my early life began at the crossroads in Barstow. They're just west of Prince Frederick on Route 231. And they bring back the fondest memories that I have of my youth in Calvert County. It was a quiet, very protected place, a major town center at that point in time until the road was widened. But its inhabitants were very close people. They had served in World War I. I still was exposed to that, as well as World War II and even Korean War. So that was the kind of place that it was. It was an agricultural community. My family on my father's side were doctors, and they gave back to the community. In fact, the first general hospital for Calvert County was planned and built by them. Originally, it was going to be built in Barstow until they got the land donated there in Prince Frederick. It's the building the Sheriff's Department occupies. But that's where it all began, in an agricultural setting. My mother was a school teacher. My dad was a farmer, had been a soldier too. And I had a great youth, exposed to farming and animals and just quietness, and loved it. When I turned 16, just shortly thereafter, my mom died. And so that was a whole change of life for me, obviously. And it took a long while to work through that. And probably the turmoil of my high school years was probably still trying to work through that tremendous impact that it had. Turns out my guidance counselor ended up marrying my dad. And so we became a larger family of almost double in size. And so I still have fond memories of her and many kids that went to Calvert High remember Miss Moeller, and that's what it is. And so from there, I didn't. When I left high school, I was the first graduating class to the new high school on Darris Beach Road, and it wasn't even complete at that time. We moved in obviously in the fall of 1962, and we were changing in the tobacco barn for a gym because the gym wasn't complete either. So we changed throughout the winter in a tobacco barn, which was pretty chilly. But it was a struggle in school for me at the time, still trying to find my way along. And, so I did not go to college immediately after, as a number of my colleagues did. And some didn't as well. But I did finally, when I came home from Vietnam, I understood the importance of proceeding in higher education, and it became a lifelong endeavor. And I certainly would commend that to anyone, even if they're late in life starting. I didn't finish up. I had ended up with 3 degrees. I didn't finish the last one until almost 30 years had passed since I graduated from high school. But I got started at the Charles County Community College, then later to become College of Southern Maryland, which I had a part in as a legislator in the House of Delegates at the time, making it a collaborative effort for the region. And so when I became a Secretary of Veterans Affairs, I reached back and created an endowment for veterans. So that kind of set the stage for the academic part. And then marriage, too, was a struggle. I got married to my high school sweetheart, and just a week before I left for Vietnam. And like many of us coming back from Vietnam, lots of things changed for us. It was hard to adapt, and marriages also suffered too as well. And that's certainly one of my failure points in life. And it was not of anyone's fault other than my own. Just it's something you got to work at, and you got to understand it, and it takes some real effort. I got remarried later in life, and had 2 sons after that. So I've got a daughter by my first marriage and 2 sons by my second marriage. And while marriage is still a struggle, it goes on. But so far it's held together. So I'm proud of that, and proud of these 2 boys, and very proud of my daughter, who actually works for Charles County government. So that all worked out at the end, and her mom's doing well, so that's great too. My careers, they've, like anybody else, they've had ups and downs in each one of my careers. So they're too numerous really to say, but the big thing is you just keep driving on, as we used to say in Vietnam. Keep pushing on. You push through it, and it's a struggle. And the careers I've had have been, got exposed to violence, death, and all sorts of things, including issues with domestic violence that has become so prominent that we have to try and continue to focus on that and helping people. So that went from a quiet, small crossroad town center all the way through to current day in one quick snapshot there.
Absolutely, and I can tell you from my standpoint, to hear a man as yourself, so accomplished yet still humble to the lessons of life, I think is a really incredible morality story, and humility is much needed in this world. So I appreciate you sharing. Kind of parlaying from family a bit into faith. Almost every Tuesday for the past 2 years, we've had the fortunate pleasure of you leading us in a prayer before our BOCC meetings. Could you share a bit about how family and faith has played into your professional life?
Sure, and I certainly am not a very qualified person to give the invocation, but I thank the board, my colleagues, for asking me to do that, and it was certainly an honor because faith has been the actual cornerstone of my life, and has continued to hold me together through the various things that I've encountered. It's taken me to exposure. Life took me to exposure, rather, to many different religions in life. I'm a Roman Catholic. I was born Roman Catholic. I've lived as a Roman Catholic, although very faltering at times, and I'll die as a Roman Catholic. But that said, from the beginning, I had exposure to my father's family there at the Methodist Church, known as Asbury, a little small church that sat in Barstow. And that later became Trinity after the highway was widened and took away almost the entire front part of where the church lot was. And my family's buried there in Asbury Cemetery. So from there to Trinity, which I stopped by and attend with my aunt, who just turned 101, Annette Wilfong. And so I attend that whenever I get a chance with her. To mosques, totally unknown to us in that little small crossroad. I had the privilege to serve in Jerusalem, both on the military side and law enforcement side. And I was privileged to be able to go into the El Marwani Mosque, which was once Solomon's Stables. And so I probably one of the few blue-eyed Caucasian to ever go in and attend and pray there. From there to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre outside of Old Jerusalem, where I went and ran my hand across a slab of stone that the body of a man named Jesus Christ was laid on, whomever you may believe him to be. And from there, our Jewish counterparts took me down to the very foundation of the Jewish religion behind the Wailing Wall one Saturday night, all the way down to its deepest foundation of thousands of years ago where it was built. So there, as well as my exposure in Vietnam, to different, both Buddhist and different religions. Cao Dai, in particular, to the temple there built by the French in Tainan, South Vietnam, which would be northwest of Saigon, not far from the Cambodian border, to the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. So religion and religious places have been a part of me and have shaped me.
Absolutely. I have a note here from kind of one of our outline questions about family and faith, and clearly living a life of public service, veteran, elected official, all very important roles within a community, and it's easy to imagine that would create a lot of time away from home. And I have a quote from you where you say, a dad who has gone too much. I can tell from my experience as a young man and coming up in this world where everything seems to cost more money and take more time, and you really understand the importance of happening to put in smart, hard work in order to acquire your goals. For someone who says maybe they were a dad who's gone too much, do you have any insight out there for young dads or young parents who might be trending in that direction as well?
That's for sure, and I'm not one to give to be a credible guidance giver or purveyor, even as many ups and downs as I've had. But there's one thing there that I was really fortunate, and maybe it was the times, that dads just spent a lot of time. And for me, I was in the field with my father from the time I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, out there in the tobacco field, picking up ground leaves and stuff like that. And, I came to understand why he wanted his sons to be in the lead no matter what we did. It was our farm, and it was our responsibility to lead, regardless of who, he had as tenants, and we had great tenants. I learned from them tremendously, and learned a lot of humility there too. So whether it be tenants or hired men and women that worked in the tobacco industry, it's something that you gotta. If you do anything, spend time with your children. That is the critical thing. In law enforcement, and particularly law enforcement, I saw so many troubled issues in domestic violence, as well as troubled persons that were juveniles that went on to become adults, that didn't have that father figure around. And so they were raised in large portion, lots of times, by grandparents, who, once you get some age on you, it's hard to keep up with your kids. Mm-hmm. So it's those kinds of things. It's spend as much time as you can, talk to them, read with them, get them pointed in the noble things of life, get them pointed in giving back to your community, no matter how harsh your community may seem. And it was especially harsh in some areas. I talk about the quietness of the crossroads of Barstow. It was there in that house that's still standing there that I watched on a little black and white TV with my parents one evening at the news, and watched the events that were unfolding in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957, I guess it was, as those 9 children were escorted by U.S. paratroopers into their high school. And my parents explained to me what was going on there, and how wrong it is to judge people by color or by the foreign language. I was very fortunate in growing up with African Americans. There was probably 50% African American population when I was growing up in Calvert County, as well as we sponsored 4 families, along with my grandfather and great uncles, that were from war-torn Europe, from Germany, from Ukraine, from Czechoslovakia. So I learned to be around them, and I know there too what they experienced, and we're fortunate to even have dads that survived. that ordeal. So it's spend time with your children, as much time as you can. I know, today's hectic pace takes us away even further than the crossroads of Barstow and the next farm or the next field. Now we commute 60 miles to work at some point in time per day, so it leaves very little time to spend with your children. But spend it whenever you get a chance. Sit and talk with them. How's your day? What are you doing? How's it going? Kiss them goodnight.
Absolutely. Shifting a bit from family and personal life now towards the innovation, forward-looking perspective of Mr. Tim Hutchins. Veteran, lifelong public steward, most recently Calvert County Commissioner. In the community, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges and opportunities for Calvert County in the next 10 years?
We've got a lot, because we're going to be a changing environment. I think the experience of COVID-19 has certainly impacted us tremendously in a terrible fashion. We've lost more people across this nation than we lost in soldiers in World War II or in the Civil War. Over 600,000 in the Civil War. Over 600,000 have died in this country from COVID. So we've got a real challenge, but we've set the stage very well. The comprehensive plan, and now into its town center plannings, and soon to be into its associated zoning effort, is going to shape us throughout the 2020 decade. And we're so fortunate that we were able to get that. And I know it was controversial, and you just got to stand up and understand that and be respectful, but you got to make decisions. You got to make hard decisions, and you got to do what's right to move the effort forward. And passing that comprehensive plan in August 2019 led us to where we are with town center master planning, and led us to where we will be with associated zoning as we move on. And by the time we get to the midpoint of the 2020s, we should be having a pretty good feel of where we stand with our planning in the town centers. We've got to think regionally. Tri-County Council was created in 1966 for that purpose, and it needs to even more focus now. One of the things in the General Assembly that Delegate Van Mitchell did, one of my colleagues, when I was elected to the House, I was living in Charles County. I had lived there for some time because of my moves for the state police. We were the unique county. We had one senatorial district, and so we had one senator, Senator Middleton. We had Delegate Mitchell, who spearheaded the Southern Maryland creation of the Southern Maryland delegation in the General Assembly. We had Delegate Linton, who had been 5 times in the House of Delegates and was my key mentor in my time in the House. So that's a big issue right there. The delegation has to be more engaged and more supportive of their county commissioners. And I can't no longer speak for Charles and St. Mary's, obviously, but I can speak for Calvert and say they've got to be more engaged and supportive, and we've got to do it in a collaborative effort. And now it even goes beyond just Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's. We have got to reach, because we're impacted by Prince George's and Arundel. One of the things that we need to reach out on that is this waste to energy effort that needs to be continued to push, because we don't have endless landfill space. And if something happens in King George County, Virginia, that landfill shuts down, we, along with many others, are in deep trouble. So we've got to jump on this thing and get a collaborative effort with Prince George's and Anne Arundel, because it takes a big stream of flow to keep waste energy going. But we've got 2 major plants that are fossil fuel, one at Chalk Point, one at Morgantown, ideal partners in that. And we have 2 smaller plants, 2 gas plants, one in Waldorf and one just above Waldorf. So that's a major issue for the next 10 years. Major corridor studies, 231 and Maryland Route 4. Again, collaborative efforts across counties. 231 is the east-west connector to what I call the Commerce Triangle of Southern Maryland, connecting Maryland Route 5 and 235 on the west side of Patuxent River, and then Maryland Route 2 and 4 on the east side. So from Prince Frederick to Hughesville, down to Leonardtown, Lexington Park, and across, that's a commerce triangle, and we've got to continue to look at studying that in a corridor fashion, same as we do Route 4. Route 4 used to be referred to when I was growing up as Pennsylvania Avenue Extended. The White House is at one end, and then it used to terminate at Solomon's. Now it goes all the way over to Leonardtown. So again, collaborative efforts. Challenges, we have got to continue with the issue of race, and not just African Americans, with whatever races there are. Maryland is becoming really a melting pot of different cultures, and we've got to recognize that, and we've got to help them assimilate to what they need to do in order to be successful in our United States, by at the same time maintaining and not losing their own linkage to where they came from. So, again, I reflect back on my comments about watching the lessons from Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957 on a little black and white TV. Thank heavens I had great parents that could explain what was going on. So I think there's that we've got to keep an eye on, and then continue to focus, obviously, on the expansion of defense industries, facilities. That's a big one. Our infrastructure, a robust IT infrastructure, broadband infrastructure that we've been uncovered by COVID-19 that we were terribly weak in, and not just us, but across this nation, and be able to continue to that. And I still am an advocate of technology. That's where these kids are going today, and a technology center in the north part of the county in Dunkirk area, because of its location and access to Baltimore, Washington, Northern Virginia area, is the right place to be for that. So those are some of the challenges or some of the growth issues that we're certainly going to face, and it's going to take some time to get them done.
Absolutely, time, and as you pointed out, collaboration. I really appreciate kind of the forward-thinking thoughts. I think there's a lot of opportunity here in Calvert, and with great leadership like we've been able to, been fortunate to have with your leadership here over the last couple of years, and with the community support, I think we're moving in the right direction. So, Tim, thank you very much for your candidness, first and foremost, today. I can say personally, your leadership and your kindness and even your strength at times when things got a little dicey was really reassuring to know that there was someone willing to stand up and do right for all. And you've left an incredible legacy here, and we're honored to continue carrying that on. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much for taking time to emphasize these issues as the county continues to move forward, and I wish everyone well. I didn't do anything ever in my life by myself. I was always, there with someone else, and so that's what it takes. It takes, It takes a village to raise a child. Well, it certainly takes a team to get something done in government.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today, and we'll speak soon.